All right. Hello, world, and welcome back to another episode of the With That Being Said podcast from the Brothers Blue. And today we are going to be talking about the executive branch as part of our three-part series going over the branches of government. This obviously is Article 2, the executive branch. And so, we could talk about this for hours. And so we've narrowed it down to five specific presidents that we are going to talk about. And with that being said, that is Brother Cody.
And that's Brother Kyle. And as he mentioned, we are going to talk about five specific presidents. And something I'll kind of say to maybe get us started is that I think something that is a reason for why we could sit here and wax on presidential conversation for days and days and days is because presidential lore seems to have a certain mercurial aspect to it. Do you agree?
Yeah, like it's kind of interesting, like how specifically focused on presidents American history is.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Right. So, all right. Well, with that being said, I think we chose a doozy to get started with because we decided to start the conversation with President Abraham Lincoln. Um, Honestly, and one thing that we didn't talk about that I truly, truly admire about him is the fact that he was a straight up wrestler and that he
Yeah,
literally would challenge people and could beat them in physical altercations.
yeah. Uh, Dude had a very, very long history.
Right. So, anyways, you have a couple simple notes based off of two of our presidents, and that is saved the country, right?
Yeah. So that's actually a point of like hubris when it comes to the president's thing because you and maybe one or two other people know that, but I can name literally all 15 presidents that served before Abraham Lincoln.
Right.
But what is notable is the three that served before him, uh, you know, uh, Fillmore, Buchanan, and somebody else. But like these guys are known as like the guys who did nothing about slavery, and then Lincoln gets elected and saves the country. So
So, and another thing that I think was funny about Lincoln is that, like, he was very, very much anti slavery, but he was still somewhat racist. Like, he had racist, like, beliefs and thoughts. And I know you're smirking because it's true, right? Yeah,
well,
exactly.
yeah, that's exactly why it's working because I have quotes from him that are like super racist. So yeah,
Right.
it's again like this is something that I talk to my students a lot about is that like there was a huge part of the abolition movement that was like socially conscious and whatnot, like Thaddeus Stevens, the radical Republicans, and all that. But there was also a completely like not altruistic motive for not wanting slavery to exist because basically the kind of slavery that was being used for like plantation agriculture in the South was not going to work in the Midwest, on the Great Plains, in the Northwest, basically in the entire rest of the country. It wasn't going to work, and people are like, "Well, we just shouldn't do this."
And I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure basically what we're talking about is the fact that chattel slavery didn't mesh with the industrialized economy that was developing in the northern areas.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Uh,
They just were models that just didn't fit together.
well, and even like big farms on the Great Plains and like
Right.
dude, places like Arizona and whatnot. They they didn't need slave labor. They were using mechanized agriculture on a large scale,
Right.
and that basically meant that like there wasn't really a need for slave labor anymore.
Exactly. All right. So the other thing that you have noted about Lincoln is his assassination, and something that I think is fun that kind of relates back to this is who his assassin was, and John Wilkes Booth is like totally an interesting person or character in like presidential lore because yeah, he was a failed actor who shot Lincoln, right?
Yeah, well, the other thing is like he was just an avowed racist. So that's just kind of the thing about John Wilkes Booth and the assassination is it's one of the most documented events in history. Like it is like people know everything that happened with that whole thing, and I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and so I'll just say he was the first of 4 presidents to be assassinated.
Fun stuff.
Yeah.
So we can move on to FDR, which was a great president. So Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the guy who ended up in a wheelchair, who took us through World War II and the Great Depression. So saved the country is the note that you also have on that. Do you want to talk about World War II or the Great Depression?
Yeah. First, let's start with the Great Depression because yeah, he was the 32nd president elected the year 1932. It was basically, I mean, the timing was a little different, but it was very similar to the situation that Obama had to go through uh, by basically inheriting a recession. And let's be honest, the 2008 thing was the biggest economic recession since 1928. And so, or 29, whatever you want to say when it started.
I'll say it was just as serious. I've
Roosevelt
said
was elected 32, and it was like dick deep into the Great Depression. And it was like, I'm just going to do so many things. And like, this is kind of what I hate because people are trying to compare the first 100 days of people, which is literally a concept that FDR came up with.
I actually don't remember, but I know what you're talking about. And so with the Great Depression, what I'll say is what I've always said, and it's kind of the point that you were saying is what we lived through and what Obama was given was it's called the Great Recession. And I feel like the only reason they call it that is because the name the Great Depression was already taken. Like it was just as bad.
Yeah, it absolutely 100% was. And I think you might be absolutely right because I don't know if the word depression is used because the other thing about 1928 and 2008, and the thing I love when people like really know what they're talking about is how it was a global thing. Because I was talking to my class today about how in Greece it was a bank debt financial crisis. Ours was like directly tied to the real estate market.
So also World War One and World War Two happened, or specifically and didn't they like coincide? And that's what I'm saying basically is you don't have World War One, you don't have the Weimar Republic, you don't have these different things that are very, very bad in Europe if the economy isn't dog shit there as well. And that's the thing is it wasn't just terrible here, it was terrible everywhere.
And that's what I was saying is like if you watch like good relevant TV shows or movies, they'll be like, oh, this depression thing is happening in America. And it's like, yeah, like the entire
oh,
economy of where they're at is collapsing. Yeah.
right, exactly. It's fucking insane.
Yeah.
It's like double speak.
Like literally. It gets complicated, but it should be. Yeah.
So World War II was also kind of the thing that FDR had a lot of management involved with his 3 terms.
No, that's actually no 4 terms. So that's literally the point I'm glad you made. Like, I honestly think if it wasn't for the fact that we were just like still in World War II, that he just kept winning re-election.
Oh
Um,
yeah, sure.
and like, yeah, say what you want about that. But yeah, the 22nd Amendment wasn't passed, and again, he just kept winning elections, and so like he's the guy who partnered with Stalin, like to beat Hitler. Uh,
Right.
so yeah,
I'm sorry. He got
the
elected
World
over
War
and
II
over
thing
again because
is
he
like
was the
big on the lore of presidents.
FDR got elected over and over again because he was the leader that we needed. He proved that time and time again.
Yeah.
Excellent president. All right. So a couple years later, after American Glory, for several decades, we come into JFK.
Yeah, the 60s is uh like quoted as notably turbulent by most historians or whatever. And so JFK won the election of 1960. So uh, there you go.
Okay. So I guess the only thing that we really have about JFK is that, unfortunately, he was assassinated, which you could talk more about. But the thing is everything that LBJ accomplished afterwards is what JFK was trying to do and setting the groundwork for.
Okay.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So uh, JFK was assassinated by a 3 named man also. Uh,
Dude, let's not even talk about the JFK assassination because we have already had an extensive conversation about that in our conspiracy theories episode.
yeah, I wasn't planning on it.
Great, just throwing it out there.
So again, that's what I was saying is he was the last of 4 presidents to be assassinated. So there's Lincoln, McKinley, Garfield, and then Kennedy. But Reagan literally got like shot in the gut. Trump, they grazed his ear, so that counts, I guess. But yeah, so unfortunately, like when assassination happens, this is something I've talked to you about. Is like Phyllis, I just it's kind of like capital punishment, in that like I don't really understand. It doesn't make sense to me. Like assassination, capital punishment, like killing people in certain ways, just really doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, okay. That's not. I understand that. Awesome. It's not something we talked about or we have talked about, but it is absolutely what it is. Assassination, capital punishment. You're right. Those are 2 very specific ways of ending someone's life. And yeah. So, what was it that LBJ did all that? Yeah, the
Yeah,
Great
no, please.
Society.
May I?
Yeah, go ahead.
So LBJ did the Great Society, and it was the extension of JFK's New Frontier. These are their domestic agendas, and as far as foreign policy goes, Cold War, like the Cold War
Right.
was happening, and so
Right.
like But domestic policies, when it like you said, he kind of the other thing. Like I'm pretty sure LBJ passed more legislation in his 5 years than any other president ever.
Yeah, I think so too.
So that's what I was saying previously is that like I think a president's legacy is largely determined by their ability to work with Congress and their legacy on the Supreme Court, which unfortunately LBJ had like none on the latter. But again,
Right.
he was a Texas Democrat senator. So like yeah, he had a lot of experience working in the Senate. And again, that's something I need to do a little more research on exactly what it was. But dude had worked in the Senate for a long time, and I'm pretty sure he got more legislation passed than like any other president ever. And it was progressive legislation. So here's what it is. Medicare and Medicaid literally would not exist if it weren't for LBJ. Food stamps would not exist if it weren't for LBJ. Preschool, pre-K was part of LBJ's Great Society. So like the Job Corps. I have students that aren't doing so well and then go to the Job Corps. Like these are food stamps. Our family's been on food. Like they did not exist before LBJ. And you're right, maybe like or probably God willing, JFK would have gotten this done.
Sorry, just to say this.
No, you're right.
The Civil Rights Act was passed in 1963.
Well, 64. Yeah.
No, I think that's awesome because that's like dick deep in the middle of both of them, is all I'm saying. I think a happy compromise for us to come to is that LBJ and JFK were the best combination of presidents that we've maybe ever seen, and I wish we could see a modern version of them.
Yeah, that would be cool. That actually kind of goes into a point I want to make later, or like, wait, yeah, no, seriously, actually, that's literally. Can we move into our next guy?
Yeah. Yep.
Because
I see where you're going.
Clinton Gore, yeah, Clinton Gore is a tag team comparable to JFK, LBJ. Like,
right,
seriously.
Gore should have won 2000. Yeah.
He did win. He did win.
When Gore won 2000, he should have been given the office.
Yeah. So that's another random thing about the executive branch that I know the few times where the popular vote, the person that won the popular vote did not become president.
Because why listen to the popular vote?
Yeah, exactly. It's not called the population vote because turnout is measured, and like if it went off the population, like that.
And so you said Clinton Gore, and I'll even give it, but like maybe 75% of the credit, Obama Biden, because even though they were separated by one Trump term, Biden actually did pretty damn good in his term. Yeah. And I fucking had the best years of my life under Obama.
So I this is like we do a lot of rankings things.
Yeah.
So you have LBJ, JFK, Clinton, Gore, and then Obama, Biden.
Yeah, right. Yep,
I love me some Obama.
Right.
So yeah.
It's like Scotty and Michael.
Yeah.
Kobe and Shaq. And then Tim Duncan and David Robinson.
Whew, that's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah, I just did that one on the fly. That was good, right? Yeah.
And honestly, the last one you said might be number one. Tim Duncan and David Robinson.
That was so stupid them playing
that
together.
Was ridiculous. Yeah.
It wasn't fair. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So
all right. So No, this is something I wanted to do also is have a point of not contention, but criticism for specifically the Clinton administration. And if you don't know where I'm going with this, after I'm saying it, you will. It's Glass-Steagall, and so the repeal of Glass-Steagall happened under Clinton, right?
Yeah, and it's so. Can I just real quick? What I think is crazy, because this is another point that I made, and it helps me bring it in. It's interesting that his economic policy resulted in a balanced budget, but then at the very end, he did the Glass-Steagall thing, and it's like, what just happened?
I totally fucking agree with everything you're saying.
Yeah,
because that's what happened. Because it was like, dude, the early 90s was maybe the most successful time in America.
Yeah, and that guy Robert Reich we've talked about, dude, he's just the best. But like,
he is the best.
He is largely responsible for Clinton's
all of that. Neoliberalism, is that what you said?
No.
What'd you say? What's he responsible for?
Just Clinton's economic policy, not neoliberalism at all.
Yeah. I think he is a critic of neoliberalism while also having helped it be ushered in. You can do that. It doesn't have to be exclusive. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, let's not.
You want to, because Obama has a very similar thing that is a two senators' names act, and so it was the Dodd-Frank Act, and so the Dodd-Frank Act was the one that bailed out the banks, bailed out the auto industry, bailed out everything.
Thank you. Holy goddamn! Thank you, because
I know stuff.
Right. Well, no, that's a point that because you know stuff. This point I wanted to make is that, like, again, it goes into this is actually a point about the Clinton thing before we move on to Obama real quick, is that like the assault weapons ban was highly effective. It literally produced mass shootings in this country during the time that it was in effect. So it did its job, but also Clinton signed the 94 crime bill, which is like mass incarceration, and it's not good. But that's it's the Dodd-Frank thing. Sorry.
Well, no, it's like Clinton, he does the right thing and then he fucking pistol whips you. It's like, what the hell are we doing?
What's weird about the Dodd-Frank thing is it bailed out banks, which no thanks, but it bailed out the auto industry,
which we needed.
I think they needed a bailout and deserved and got a bailout. The banks got
the only reason I'll say that is because the auto industry was full of a bunch of hardworking people, whereas the finance industry is full of people who sit behind a fucking desk.
Well, not just sit behind a desk, but sit behind a desk and lie to people. Like you. Sorry.
Yes.
I don't need to go any further than that. Yeah.
Yep. You're right. Exactly. Because I used to do it professionally.
We've all seen Wolf of Wall Street, so yeah.
I had my series this, my series that.
So whatever. Taking a couple tests. So yeah.
The thing I think that was cool about Clinton again is like he did like you said, the assault weapons ban was good, but then the crime bill was really bad. He oversaw probably the best era of tech innovation, with it being like untethered and allowed to do what it needs to do, but while also not creating like what we have now, Facebook and X and shit like that. But then he does fucking Glass-Steagall. He repeals Glass-Steagall. So again, it's like he gives us something and then he pistol whips us in the face. Obama, on the other hand, just had the worst economy of all time given to him. And as far as I'm concerned, yeah, like I said, my best years were under him. A fun fact about his economy is it finished with 75 straight months. 75 months. That's like 4.5. No, that's like 6 years.
Of what?
Job growth.
Oh, of job growth. Yeah. So I was actually quite aware, and like more people should.
Not to mention, I mean, unemployment went from like 10% to like 4%. So.
Yeah, more people should just be aware that he inherited like a dumpster fire and literally turned it around like FDR. And so, like, honestly, actually, like, this is kind of. I think in the long run, in the history books, people are actually going to praise Biden a lot for
Yes, I agree.
his inheriting of a horrible situation as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and him doing a value, dude. We actually started bringing manufacturing back under Biden, and like that has happened in a long fucking time.
Yeah. And I'm actually going to have to look this one up too, but I know he's been or was like legislatively accomplishing things. Like he passed a lot of shit too. And that's really what it comes down to is like, what are you able to pass?
Yep, exactly. And like you're gonna have to deal with Congress. So what are you gonna be able to do with that? Because and like you said, the Supreme Court is like a legacy kind of thing. Like it's very much more long term.
Yeah.
As far as in your presidential term and trying to get shit done, you need to work with Congress.
Well, yeah.
I
You
fucking
have to.
hate. I fucking hate Congress.
But unless you decide that you're just going to do everything through executive order.
I don't want an autocrat or an oligarch, so no thank you.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, cool.
Obama passed health care. I feel like that's the only other point I didn't really get to is that like
Hold on.
passed health
It
care.
wasn't through executive order, was it? Was that
No.
just okay?
No.
Right, yeah. So
No.
the ACA became a thing, and
Yeah.
that I agree with you. And not only that, I think that's a good thing for us to end on because it's very topical, recent, and honestly, it's still a thing. And so, like,
Yes.
yeah, very, very many. A lot of people are still getting coverage through that program and are benefiting from America trying to nationalize a medical system, which is something we desperately need to do.
Yeah, like literally what's funny is we have an institution called the National Institute of Health.
Yep, the
But
NIH. Right.
yeah, exactly. It doesn't provide healthcare, and like I think like maybe we should look into transforming that into a way
Yeah.
of providing healthcare. But yeah,
Genius, dude. Genius. Fucking
it's
genius.
just an idea. But like you're right, that's a good place to stop because, dude, I honestly don't think it was like since the 60s or 70s, like LBJ's Medicare, maybe Medicaid, or expansions on
So,
that, maybe is like the last healthcare reform that was passed. And then you have Obama in what, 2010? Like,
so and
ACA? Yeah.
an idea like having the NIH provide healthcare is something that like it shouldn't just be something that you and I are talking about. It's something that fucking these people that are elected and paid a lot of fucking money, aka our Congress members, they need to start talking about these conversations and coming up with real solutions like you just said. Why can the NIH, why can't they start or implement or look into being the administrator for a national healthcare system? Right?
Yeah, right. Completely, 100%. I I don't really have any way to expand on that. That's all. It's like, yeah,
It's frustrating because it's like, why are members of Congress not having these conversations?
yeah. Uh, because all they're trying to do is get elected. Like again, like with the and no, we already talked about the legislative branch and whatnot, but like that's really what it is. Those are the people that aren't listening to us. Yeah.
It just and that's all they want to do is get fucking reelected.
Yes. Yeah.
All right, so next time we'll be talking about the third and final branch. And actually, I'm glad that we talked about these two first because I find them more interesting personally. The Supreme Court, I think, is great, especially in the fact that it provides most jurisprudence, which I think is fun.
That's didn't we already talk about that word? It's it's one of those because again I do this like I think about words and what they really mean, and so like
Right.
yeah, I would
Because you know
do
what
the
it
deep
means.
dive on that one. Yeah,
Right. Because you know what it means, but most people probably
kind
don't.
of. Yeah, exactly.
Kind of. Oh, yeah. That's right. All right. So with that being said,
Knowledge is power.